Hi, I'm hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I'm Brittany Pacheco, and I love that new title, if I can just say so myself. And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Yeah, Brittany. The new intro is awesome. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, you just kind of whipped that up yesterday, like as we were kind of
I I
preparing for
did.
this. Yeah, pretty
You know,
cool. Pretty cool
new
stuff.
year, new pod. Maybe
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. So anyway, welcome to the show. We just want to start off by thanking everyone um, who is watching this on YouTube now, or maybe who watch it on YouTube later, or those who are maybe listening on podcast services like Apple Podcast and Spotify. We really appreciate it. If you
Yep.
could like us, subscribe, provide a rating on any of those services, that'd be awesome. We really appreciate that. But Brittany, today we're here to talk about um, a series that actually came out last year around the holidays.
Yep.
Hawkeye, the Disney Plus original series Hawkeye.
Yeah.
The series came out November. I think it was like November. It's November 24th, so it's right before Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. It was a 6-week or 6-episode show. It ran for 5 weeks because on the release date, they did 2 episodes the first week. What were your overall thoughts on Hawkeye?
So I thought it was actually just interesting that Hawkeye was getting a TV series as opposed to like a movie, because Black Widow finally got her movie after much delay. And I thought as like one of the more or less original Avengers, how is it that he wasn't getting his own movie? Which, in essence, after watching this whole series, it probably could have just been one movie in itself, right? Instead of it just being a 6-episode series and still keeping the same storyline if you want, right? So I thought that was kind of odd because I like Jeremy Renner as an actor. I like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Clint Martin Hawkeye, because initially you just think he's this like super cool um archer assassin slash spy. I don't know what you want to call him, but he's got that really cool ability to obviously um shoot arrows, but then you see the side of him of he's a family man. He's got a family, and this series, starts off with him and his family post the blip, of course. But overall, Justin, I thought it was kind of a slow start, especially with the first episode. But after that, it picked up. It got better, in my opinion. And I still think it probably could have been a movie. The more I think about it, it definitely could have been its own movie. So why Disney, Marvel? Why? What'd you think?
Just well, I mean, the reason why is to have weekly content, to have
That's
because it
fair.
it was during the holidays. There wasn't the Book of Boba Fett didn't start until after Christmas, so it was like
That's true.
they needed content for this time period. I enjoyed the show. I agree with your points about how it could have been a movie. I think maybe it would have worked better as a movie. It was
Mhm.
kind of stuck in that weird place of, like you said, the first episode was kind of slow. Like honestly, the
Mhm.
first episode, like we'll talk about some of the highlights of it, but um, yeah, it was just I was like, man, I'm just not really interested in this.
Yeah.
And then like I watched the first episode about a week or so after it came out.
Mhm.
And then no. It was like no, I watched the first episode like I think the day after I saw Spider-Man No Way Home the first time.
Mm. Okay.
So like a month ago around this time.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not sure about this show. And then the next day I basically binged the rest of the series because it was all out there. So
Mhm.
um it did it picked up after the first episode
Yeah,
and
definitely.
yeah, I but yeah, it could have been a movie, probably would have worked better as a movie. Um,
I agree.
but I enjoyed it. I think the one thing about this show is because a lot of it wasn't in front of a green screen, they were actually on location shooting in New York. It
Mhm.
felt more like
Believable?
I don't think it was the best of the Disney Plus series, and we'll go through those later. But
Mhm.
I do think felt it felt the most realistic, and obviously Hawkeye's a grounded character. He doesn't have superpowers,
Right.
but I liked it being on a real location with like real people involved. And obviously with COVID, that's a problem right now, or it has been.
Sure.
But it definitely I like the feel of it. I love the fact that it was a holiday themed show that came out around the holidays. I think that really
Mhm.
delivered. Like I don't know that like if I hadn't watched Hawkeye and then all of a sudden like in let's say July of this year, I don't think I would want to watch it in July. Being, we live here in Houston where it's hot as hell most of the year. I don't think
Right
I'd
now
want
it's
to.
cold.
It's cold right now, but it
It's
should
cold
be
right
though.
now.
It's winter. Um, but I think that the timing of it, like, it worked out perfectly because it kinda got you in that holiday spirit. Like I said, I watched it just a
Yeah.
few days before Christmas, so, like, I was already kinda in the Christmas spirit anyway, so I think it really
Oh, look
delivered.
at you. That's so
Well,
cute.
you know, I think it really delivered on that level, and, because we're always
Yeah.
talking about, like, "Oh, is this a Christmas movie? Is this a Christmas show or whatever?" And this show nailed it on 2 accounts. Had a Christmas theme and, it aired during Christmas time for us. So,
Yeah,
anyway, I
it did.
enjoyed it. Now let's get to the cast because I think the cast is where this show kinda really shined.
Mhm.
Obviously, like you said, Jeremy Renner was back as Clint Barton/Hawkeye. Obviously, the big addition to the show was Haley Steinfeld, who
Yes.
plays Kate Bishop. What'd you think about Haley Steinfeld? Her addition to the MCU?
So, I love Haley Steinfeld. I've seen her in a variety of different movies, and I think this was a good cast because not only is she able to do the physical, stunts and all that stuff and portray this character who is an archer who looks up to Hawkeye, if you will, because of what she witnessed back in 2012 when New York City was, in this in the battlefield between the Avengers and the Chari and Loki, etc. And I think she's funny. I think she's like just cute. And you know how much I hate the word cute, right? Especially about myself. But the
Right.
fact that like I think she kind of has it all in that way. Like I think she's very beautiful, of course. And to see this girl kind of take this stance of, I'm gonna be somebody, or I want to kind of live up to be like an Avenger in a way. And she is able to do all those things. She's an archer. She's if I don't know what the word is for fencing, a fencer. She can use the sword, right? She
Yeah,
can use the
right,
sword,
right.
and she can do a lot of all these physical things. But she's funny. I think she's funny. I think the comedic timing it hits. Unlike other characters in the MCU that we just didn't find funny, Captain Marvel,
Captain Marvel.
and,
I think she's the only one because I was about to say, like,
yeah,
I think
she's
you're
the only
right.
one.
Haley Steinfeld kind of perfectly fits into the MCU because she has that perfect mix of she's likable. I mean, yes,
Yeah,
she's attractive. She's funny. She can
yeah,
kind of pull off all the things that all the other actors in the series or in the MCU can pull off, except for, like I said, Captain
right.
Marvel, who just she checks off some of those boxes, but the
But
humor
it
part of it
didn't
she doesn't
the
really
the
have.
jokes didn't land for her, which is so sad because I
Right.
like Brie Larson. I'm gonna, kind of digress a little bit, but I like Brie Larson as an actor. I just don't think the role and Brie are a good fit. Whereas I feel with Haley Steinfeld and in the role of Kate Bishop, it works. Now, I wish we had Frank here. I don't know the MCU inside and out like Frank does, obviously. Um, I don't think Frank particularly cares about Kate Bishop and that kind of thing, but I know her character plays a role in the comics with like the Young Avengers, what have you, right? She's kind of
Right.
filling that role as the Hawkeye, protege, if you will. And I don't know, I like Haley Steinfeld. I've seen her in Ender's Game, which was kind of these brilliant, children who are forced to fight like some sort of enemy, if you will, and that was, different. And then I've seen her in Pitch Perfect. Two completely different roles, but
Right.
I think she's got a good range. I think she can do it all, and I think overall, I thought that was a great casting to bring her into the MCU, and I loved her banter with Clint Barton. I thought their banter was just so good, so good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, they had a really good chemistry, like, from
Mhm.
the jump. They definitely seemed like they would be like a mentor, mentee kind of thing, like
Yeah,
partners, like that way. I think it worked really well.
definitely.
Um, yeah, I mean, Haley Steinfeld's somebody that obviously I've heard of that I know. I don't think I could name a whole lot of things I've seen her in, but I know she's a famous
Mhm.
person, and she's been you know acting for a while. So I think she
Yeah,
really, I really enjoyed her. I don't really understand people who didn't like her in this show because she was, I mean, she was incredibly likable, and
right.
yeah, and
No,
now you're
I thought she was great.
yeah, yeah, and you mentioned that the opening of the series in episode 1, and right now for our viewers who are watching us, Brittany's got a picture of the very opening of the show, and I really thought that was a cool way to open it because it explains, she was a kid living in this, like, I guess, penthouse or high-rise
Mhm.
apartment building in New York
'Cause
during the
she
battle.
rich. She
Right.
rich, rich.
Yeah, she's got some money. And, it happened, like, right there, as you could see, like, you could see the Chitauri, ship and all, there's the Avengers Tower, the Stark building, and all that
Mhm,
stuff happens right in front of her, and that, then she sees Hawkeye, kinda saving the day, and he's jumping off the building and firing arrows and stuff, and that's the reason why she
mhm.
wanted to become an archer. That's the reason why she, idolized Hawkeye. So, I
Yeah.
thought that was a really strong way to start the series, and,
And real quick, just the fact that they tied in this whole thing, like, to make sense. Star Wars, Imma need y'all to take some notes. You can't
yeah.
just, like, give us a character without proper, background, especially a character who died 30 years
Mhm.
ago. Okay, sorry. Now
You
that's
know,
out of my system.
really, though, only Marvel does this well.
Yeah,
I'm
they do.
serious, like, no one else does this well. That's why it's like, to me, it's always funny when, like, especially with DC, there's always talk of like, oh, like, DC fans and people who like DC say, "Oh, we don't wanna be just like the MCU. We wanna have our own thing where, yes, some of our stories, you know continue on, and some of them are just self-contained." And to me, the honest thing is, it's not that you don't wanna be the MCU. You can't be the MCU. You just don't have the ability, the organizational skills, the talent to pull it off, and that's just the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding.
No,
So,
you're absolutely
yeah,
correct.
and that because, like, if
Absolutely.
if you could do what the MC is doing, why would you not do it? I mean, it's the most lucrative entertainment property in the world, like,
Yeah.
in the world, and they've only been doing the movies since 2000, what, 8 or 9? And that technically wasn't even Marvel Studios,
Yeah.
whenever Iron Man came out. I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
that
Yeah.
studio has already grossed $25 billion. That's almost
Jeez.
$1 billion per movie, like, so, like, their success level, like, why you wouldn't try to copy that is
Yeah.
solely because you can't. It's not because you don't want to. So, um,
This is a stretch, but I'm gonna kinda relate it to, like, why everyone hates on Nickelback. They've got a formula, it works, they're successful. You don't have to like the music, I don't care. I personally do like Nickelback, don't get me wrong. But that's what, like, haters are gonna hate, that's fine. DC, y'all have
yeah,
had some success, just not the success that MCU
no.
has, obviously. But anyway, let's get back
Yeah,
to talking about Hawkeye.
right. I don't make this all about hate DC. I'm just saying, like, because I don't hate it DC. I actually like a lot of DC stuff. I just think, like, when you kinda called out Star Wars, I mean, you're right
Yeah,
to call them out because their stuff is kind of a mess.
a little
Um,
bit,
but
a little bit.
what all I'm saying is no one has it like the MCU does. They just no one
No,
does. So, we
for
really
sure.
should just enjoy what we're seeing before us. And so, like I said, this was a great way to start the episode, start the series
Mhm,
off,
mhm.
and then you kind of see
And
her, her how she becomes an archer, her using her archery skills at school.
right,
Go ahead, Brittany.
taking
What were you gonna say?
taking down the, clock tower, and that was
Yeah,
kind of funny. But, you made a good point, at the top of the show about the fact that this whole series was shot on location with hardly any, CGI, if any CGI, right?
I'm sure
And
there was some, obviously, but
sure,
like
of course,
it's not like they were just like in like a warehouse in Atlanta or something, or a
but
soundstage
con
in Atlanta. Yeah,
but consider the fact that we're not working with an enemy that is like an alien or
right.
something, completely made up, right?
Yeah,
We're talking like real world type enemies, right?
yeah.
Let
It's a
me let
grounded. It's just a
Yeah, it's
grounded
grounded.
show. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the tracksuit gang or whatever they're called,
Tracksuit
terrible.
Mafia. Yeah, the
Tracksuit
dude
mafia,
bros. They
terrible
s
name.
the dude bros, they say dude and bro all constantly.
Oh yeah. Trust a bro. Trust a
Right.
bro. I know I have a
Right.
picture somewhere about that. But anyway,
Yeah.
but you know, that was the enemy. And then in two, I've got a picture up here with Kate Bishop's mother, who is engaged to this other gentleman that I can't think of his
Yeah.
name, Armand.
Jack
Armand.
Jack Duquesne, I believe.
Okay, yeah, Jack
Yeah.
Duquesne.
So
Sure.
the mother's name is Eleanor, and
Yes.
she's played by Vera Farmiga, and
Hmm.
the fiance is Tony Dalton, which I feel like
Yeah.
I've seen this guy, but I'm not familiar with his work. I know he's on I think he's on Better Call Saul, which is not a show I
Yeah.
watch, but I
He
know is a
is.
very popular show.
Yeah.
So what did you think about the mother and the father to father-in-law to be, or the I'm not sorry, the stepdad to be?
Yeah. So the show sets it up to where you kind of are inclined to maybe dislike the soon be stepdad because it looks like he's doing some shady things. He's got some like weird interest in swords and things like that. And that, can come off kind of strange, especially if you're, not into stuff like that. And the fact that with Tony Dalton's character's uncle, is that the Armand person that I'm getting confused with,
I
who's
believe
played by
so.
Simon Cowell, not that
Right.
Simon Cowell, but a different Simon Cowell from, Ace
Right.
Ventura, When Nature Calls. That cracked
Right.
me up when I made that connection. I was like, "Hi-ho Silver, away!" Anyway, sorry, that's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
But
those are classic. Yeah.
I could literally quote that entire movie. Anyway, but having his Simon Cowell's character Armand, the third, sixth, 20th, whatever his name is, he too seems kind of shady and threatens Kate's mom for whatever reason. And so you're kind of like inclined to not like this family, and you kind of like, Kate's mom, what are you doing? Like, come on, girl, you're a strong, independent woman. You're a widow, you've raised your child, to the best of your ability. You have a successful like security company. Like, why do you need this man? Sorry. But um you're kind of inclined to root for the mom and not for the fiance, right? And then that completely changes like towards the end of the show,
Yeah.
obviously.
Be-
Um,
Because just real quick, I did a little bit of research, and like in the comics, um, the mom. I'm not sure if the mom is even if she even lives, because in the comics,
mm,
um, Kate Bishop's dad is the one who turns out to be evil,
ooh,
and this Jack character,
mhm,
I think his name is Swordsman, where
yeah,
he's kind of a villain, whereas in
yeah,
the show, turns out he wasn't a villain. And it turns out
exactly.
the mom was, one of the big bads, obviously. Not the
Yeah,
biggest bad, but
no,
she worked with the biggest bad. So,
she did
I mean, to me, you could tell after, a little while that the mom, there was something suspect about the mom. She
definitely.
was, a little bit shady.
Yeah,
And it was like
definitely.
you're meant to believe that Jack was shady, but then like he would have these moments with Kate where it's like he was trying to like connect with her or be like a
Hmm.
parent, and it was like I kind of picked up on it pretty quickly. Okay, this guy's not going to be the villain that we like. You think he's
Yeah.
a part of this operation with whatever's going on, and
Hmm.
that's not the case. So I
No,
do,
it's
they
not.
did try to throw you a curveball, but I kind of could see it coming.
Yeah, it there definitely felt something odd about the mom, like she was trying to hide something or kind of put the blame on somebody else and like totally just, be okay with it. But yeah, there was like what you're saying early on, there just seemed to be something off, but at the same time, you're kind of wanting to root for the mom and not the fiance. But I want to quickly move and talk about this guy, Justin,
Yeah.
the Kit Harrington wannabe.
Right, right, yeah, he did look very much like Kit.
He strikingly did. And what's funny about this is that I got to pull up his name because I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Well, the character name was Kazi.
Kazi, correct.
Yeah,
Yes, you're right about that. So Kazi, I think his name is Frothy. Frothy. I could be complete
yeah, I think
butchering
it's
that name.
Fra. I think it's just Fra. Yeah.
Okay, for Alfie.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I first saw him on the screen, I'm just like, I've seen this guy before. And of course, I'm watching the show with John, and John's like, yeah, he looks like Kit Harington. I'm like, no, I mean, aside from that, I mean, yes, there's similarities or whatever, the kind of long curly type hair or whatever, but I then realized he was in Les Miserables way back whenever the Hugh Jackman, Anne Hathaway, and Russell Crowe movie came out. He was one of the characters in that movie. So I'm like, okay, that's where I've seen him from. So that for
Mhm.
me, watching movies and shows, I find more enjoyment in trying to figure out where I've seen these actors before. That's totally
Right.
sidebar.
Right.
But this character, Kazi, is part of that tracksuit mafia.
Right.
And a unique aspect of this mafia is that they have a character in here named Maya, who is actually in real life. The actress is a real life deaf individual
Yep.
who is an amputee. And
Right.
I thought that was incredible that they actually, incorporated that into the story. And not all, but Kazi for sure is someone who communicates with Maya through ASL, through American Sign Language. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I did read somewhere that both Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld learned ASL in order to welcome, the actress that played Maya onto set. So I thought that was really nice that
Mhm.
they did that. And anyway, but going back to Kazi, he too. I mean, he's a bad guy, but he's like also a bad guy, right? You think he's close to Maya, you think he's like there to help her out or whatever, but like he also has a shadiness as well, and Maya will eventually find that out towards the end of the show.
Yeah,
But
his connection to Maya is kinda strange. It's like he seems like he might be like a big brother or friend,
mhm.
or there might be some kinda like love interest to him and
Yeah,
Maya.
exactly.
It's not well defined, and
Mm-mm.
neither is his age either. Because you notice, like, it seems like he is this, similar age to Maya, but then, like, if you backtrack the story of how, Maya's father is basically, killed off because of because the big bad, which we'll talk about in a little bit,
Mhm.
this Kazi character was supposedly there when her father or he was a part of this operation when her father was killed.
Mhm.
And, at this point, Maya is just a little girl. She's, you know, 5,
She's
6,
maybe
7,
like
8,
9
maybe,
at the
yeah.
most, maybe 10.
And so you would think that this Kazi guy is maybe a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid, but
Mhm.
I don't think so. I think he was like in his 20s. So it's hard to
Yeah, it's
that
strange.
part of it was kind of strange of, you know, his relationship to her and that
Mhm.
whole part of it. So
Yeah,
I
for
like the
sure.
characters, but it was something I would think about. I'm like, I don't really understand, like, how old is this guy
Mhm.
compared to her? Or what's their deal? So
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm totally with you on that. Yeah, so interesting. But the whole like first episode and kind of after we break down the first episode, we can just kind of like run through it with the other episodes. But with the main kind of event that goes on in the first episode is that when we kind of think that Jack is like this really shady dude, he goes to like they're at some party or whatever, and then he goes to like a cellar where only a few selected individuals are there for like this, black market type auction thing. And he is wanting to bid on, a sword. Well, the sword happens to be the sword that Ronin, aka Hawkeye, aka Clint Barton, used
mm,
during the time when Thanos had, of course, wiped off half the universe, right? That included Clint Barton's family. So he was the
yeah.
only one left. He, I imagine, went into an incredibly depressive state and decided to just wreak havoc on the earth and I guess rid the bad guys across the earth.
Mm,
Because when we do discover him as Ronin, when Natasha goes and finds him, I believe in Japan, somewhere in Japan, um,
I think so.
Hawkeye is wearing this like Ronin type outfit, which we see her on the screen that Kate Bishop is wearing because that that outfit along with the sword was part of that black market auction.
Right.
that eventually gets hijacked by the tracksuit mafia. I swear I can't get over that name. It's just a terrible name. Um, they want to come in and try to get an item off from the auction, and of course, chaos ensues, and Kate Bishop, which is so funny that she puts on this outfit and it like fits her perfectly. Like that's just so strange, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know, young woman figure as opposed to a grown man, and you can fit into his, outfit
Well, I
without a
mean, as you
problem.
yeah, but as you can see in the picture that you're showing us now for the viewers who are
Mhm.
watching, it's not a snug fit. You know what I'm saying? Like
No,
it's
true, true.
now if you look at her feet, obviously it's a little short because I guess is she taller than Clint Barton? I don't really remember.
I think they're maybe about the
About the same
same
height. Yeah.
height, but I think she's probably a little bit taller. But
Yeah. So it might not be that big of a stretch that they could kind of wear the same kind of
right.
clothing.
But the whole thing is that once she dons the Ronin outfit, the tracksuit mafia apparently has beef with Ronin, and now it's like this whole other level of, oh, now we're gonna like get you and pay back, for the things that you did back in the day, which included, I believe, the death of Maya's father, right? And so, there's just a lot going on. Kate definitely bit off more than she can chew.
Mhm.
And, we're talking about how this show starts with Clint with his family. They're in New York. It's Christmas time, like you said, and they're there to see this damn musical that was
Roger.
just
Yeah.
oh
Rogers the musical. Yeah.
awful.
So
Okay.
let's talk about that musical right now because let's just get it all out there. So, like you said, they're there to watch the musical,
Mhm.
and if you watch the final episode of the series, they show like the whole performance of this song, which is called "I Can Do It All Day" or whatever. It's the
So
Steve
funny.
Rogers saying
Yeah.
the song. I like the song. It's over the top and silly,
Yeah.
but this show here features Broadway performers, people who were in Rent
Yes.
and
Yes.
other shows. So
It's fantastic like that.
it's yeah, it's very well done. But
Mhm.
one of the funny things about this scene is, as you can see on our far right hand side, is there's a character. You see all the characters. You see like there's Hulk, there's Thor, there's Iron Man, there's Steve Rogers, there's Hawkeye, there's Black Widow, then Ant Man is there. Which in the show, obviously Clint Barton's like, hey, that guy wasn't there. He wasn't
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah. He's all like, I've lived this. He's like, I don't need a musical to basically tell me what happened in New York. He's like, I was there. Look, there I am. But I can tell you that guy, pointing to Ant-Man, was not there, which I thought was so silly. And yes, Broadway, I love Broadway. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely love seeing things on the stage, be it Broadway, operas, whatever. This was way too much for me to endure. So I totally understand why Clint's character needed to like, get out of there. Of course, obviously, because he's seeing someone portray Natasha, who, sacrificed herself for uh the whole world,
mhm,
universe, whatever. And that still bothers him, obviously. He has some guilt about
right,
that. And so of course that's also the reason why he walked out of there. But the fact of the matter is that Clint is trying to spend time with his family now that they're back. And, they have like this whole Christmas thing. Like, we're going to do this, we're going to do one fun thing every day for the week that it's Christmas here in New York. And then because of this whole Ronin, bit that Kate Bishop has now, brought back, Clint's like, well, shit, I got to go back to work. Like, I gotta, end this before
right,
someone gets hurt or before someone comes after his family, of course. So
mhm,
uh, that's kind of like pretty much the setup of like episode one.
right. And before we go too far, I just want to say, so the Ant Man thing, yeah, in Avengers, Ant Man was not there. However,
Mhm.
I've seen people online point out that in Endgame, Ant Man does go back to New York. So maybe that's
He
why he was included.
does.
So that to me, that would make because like obviously Marvel doesn't make these kind of mistakes. They obviously know
Yeah.
that Ant Man wasn't in the Avengers 2012 movie.
Right.
However, in Endgame, he did go back to 2012 in the
Mhm.
the time travel portion. So maybe that's why they added Ant-Man. I'm not really sure, but it's fun
Un
to think about.
unless they were gonna incorporate, which sadly they didn't, in the show about Ant-Man saying that basically Captain America's ass is, you know, America's ass.
Well,
So
I mean, you do see that Hawkeye has a Pym particle arrow. One
Yes,
of his
we
arrows is
do.
Pym. So
Yes, that was kinda cool.
maybe that's part of the reason why Ant-Man was in the Broadway musical. I'm
Maybe.
not sure. I just
Maybe so.
I
Yeah,
hope
but the
that
whole musical thing was silly. It was over the top. I was not expecting to get the full on
right.
song at the very end of this show.
Yeah,
That
I
was
don't know that we necessarily needed it, but I know George was not a fan of that. In fact, this might be this right here might be the single reason why George is not on the show today because
yeah,
he did not enjoy this.
no.
And I have to say, for like, I thought it was kind of I mean, it's a funny thing, but I think it's
Yeah.
something that maybe Marvel should have released on social media instead of making it the
You know
post
what?
credit, or the mid credit, because this was the only mid credit in the whole show, and
That's brilliant.
it doesn't lead to anything else.
Yeah.
Although
No, I agree.
I did hear a really great idea of what they could have done because, as you remember, when this show was toward the end of its run, was the
Mhm.
same time as when Spider-Man: No Way Home came out. Obviously,
Yes.
both movies happen, both the movie and the show happened at the same time. They're both in New York City,
Mhm.
and I heard people say, wouldn't it have been cool if on the post credit of Hawkeye they show the audience and Tom Holland's Peter Parker is in the audience, and he says something like, "I used to know those guys," or something like that, or I met those guys," or some kind of like thing.
Wow.
That would have
Yeah.
been so cool. Now, the people who hadn't seen Spider-Man wouldn't have understood, but then, I mean, granted, most of the world, I think, has seen Spider-Man at this point. It's over $1.5 billion at the box office. But
Jeez.
I don't know.
Tiny
That
amount.
sounds like it sounds like a cool way they could have incorporated Spider-Man into the end of the show and made us, by watching this performance of this Broadway musical and song, it would have had
Mhm.
more of a story beat to it instead of just like, "Hey, here's this silly song that shows off how talented we are," which it did. And I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I think it would have worked better as just like a social media piece of like, "Hey, happy holidays from
Yeah.
Marvel Studios." So anyway,
Yeah, it's just like, "I can do this all
yeah,
day."
yeah,
And I'm like, "Man, please don't.
right,
Please don't."
yep.
But anyway, yeah, so, I finally realized I didn't have the right file up on here, Justin, that
No, it's
way
okay.
these photos can cycle through.
No,
But
it's okay.
anyway, so we have now the premise of what Hawkeye is going to move forward with, because eventually we will see that Clint does encounter Kate after Kate saves a dog, which is why we see a dog in one of
Right.
these stills. Very precious dog who has one eye and he's extremely cute, loves pizza,
Yep.
and so yeah, Kate's like totally astonished about meeting her hero, and so the title of episode 1 is, never meet your heroes. But now Kate is like really like she wants to partner up with Hawkeye to try to figure out like what's going on with this whole Ronin thing. And Clint's like not giving up a lot of info about who Ronin is, especially because of the fact that he is Ronin. He knows he did a lot of bad things during the time of the
Right.
blip and all that jazz. And so I think for just Clint being the fatherly figure that he doesn't want to put this, young woman in any kind of danger. He wants to handle it himself, get back to his family. It's Christmas, you do you. So yeah, it and this is where we start seeing the dynamic between the two. They're just funny. I don't know, like just the back and forth, and she's pretty headstrong, and he's also, obviously headstrong, and this is his mess to deal with, I guess you could say. But Kate's here for the ride. She wants to help out Hawkeye. That's her hero.
Yeah, and as you're cycling through, you showed the dog. The dog, by the way, is Lucky the pizza dog. That's the name of the dog.
So cute.
And the dog actually does not only, I mean, does have two eyes. They actually put like a little green screen thing over his face. So he does have,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. So the dog actually does have two eyes, but or the dog
sweet
that plays
puppy.
Lucky, yeah, in the show.
Sweet puppy.
Um, we'll just look at these photos that you were showing us a
Mhm.
little bit ago. We saw the photo of Maya Lopez, which she's we mentioned her before, and I thought
Mhm.
the little girl that played her when she was a little kid was adorable. Like she was so
Extremely.
yeah, and um,
There you go.
yeah. So there's Maya Lopez, the character, and she's also known as Echo, which is she's getting her own Disney Plus series coming, I believe in 2022, coming this year.
That
So
that is true. Yes. I know
yeah,
it's still kind of weird to say that we're in 2022 now.
yeah, yeah. The reason why I say that is because like we don't really know a whole lot of when stuff is coming out. We do know now that Moon Knight is coming out on March 30th,
Mhm.
but the rest of the slate, and there's a lot of stuff that's on the way, but I'm not sure if it's going to be 2022 or 2023. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll look out for that definitely. But
Yeah. I'm curious to find out more about Maya because obviously seeing her as a child interacting with her dad, how, she had her struggles going to a regular public school that wasn't for the deaf or those who, have limitations, right? And again, she's not only deaf, but she is also an amputee. So, which we in the show we didn't get a story about why it is, but as I said, the actress actually is a real life amputee.
yeah, the character actually doesn't have that in its
Right,
past. So yeah,
right. So to one see and incorporate the actress, real self and portray that as a young version, in I don't know if it's, actual like kung fu, karate, whatever you want to call it, kind of thing. Little girl kicks ass,
oh
as
yeah,
an
yeah,
amputee. And
yeah,
she was told by her father, that don't limit yourself. Like you can't hear, but you can see. Like watch, and that's how you'll learn, obviously. And that rang true for this little girl's karate class when she's matched up with this other boy, and she takes him down like no problem, which I thought was great. So that was really cool. I think I mentioned this in our Eternals pod. The diversity and inclusion that MCU and Disney are now considering, I think is great. I think it's long overdue. However, I do appreciate it because it's, of course, bringing light to other people, and I love seeing it, and it's different. I don't know. I really like it. I really enjoy it. But yeah, like you said, the little girl that is playing young Maya, she's just so cute. She's just, I don't know, she's adorable.
yeah.
But anyway, we're gonna keep cycling through here. But yeah, Maya is, like you said, she's gonna get her own show later this year. As you said, she's Echo because while she was part of this tracksuit mafia thing, she kind of realizes that the big boss, and I guess we can go ahead and talk about the big boss,
Yep.
in this whole thing is Kingpin. Now, I didn't watch Daredevil, the series Daredevil,
Netflix series, right?
the Netflix series Daredevil.
Yeah.
I think Frank and George did. Justin, did you watch it?
I've watched most of the first season. It's a really good show.
Okay.
I mean, I like it. I just need to get back to watching it. I really enjoy it. Obviously, Matt Murdock, uh, you know,
Hmm.
Daredevil himself made a brief
Right.
cameo in Spider-Man: No Way Home, which happened at the same time that the Kingpin was brought into Hawkeye, and of
Exactly.
course, Kingpin is a Spider-Man villain, but most notably, he's a Daredevil villain. So,
Right. So, and we'll get into. I'm just looking at the picture here. We have a very special character that we both love. We'll talk about her later.
right.
But Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, literally, I couldn't recognize him. I didn't think he was like that stocky of a guy, like that tall. Um, Phenomenal actor, of course. However, a lot of people were just like, "Oh my god, they actually, brought him in from the Daredevil Netflix series, and like that means that all of this is slowly starting to come into the MCU, et cetera, et cetera." But he's the big bad, and dude is strong. Like again,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him, but I was just solely impressed with like how strong that guy is because he could not be taken down, by almost anyone, it seemed.
Yeah, they hit him with a car and
Yeah.
at the end Echo shoots him. I guess we're made to believe he dies, but obviously he's
Right.
not going to die. But yeah, I mean the thing about Vincent D'Onofrio, I mean it's really cool that he's getting to play Kingpin again. I know he really like if you follow him on social media or see his stuff on social media, he loves this character. He loves playing the character. So
Mhm.
I'm glad he was brought into the MCU, but the character, and like I said, I've only watched the first season of Daredevil. I wanted to say Deadpool,
I
but
know, I heard it.
uh, Daredevil, he's not as brutal in this when we see him here in this Disney Plus series as opposed to what he is in the Netflix
Mm,
series. Now the Netflix series is kind of a
okay.
rated R, adult oriented show.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I think his appearance, the idea of him being in the show was cool. I think the execution of it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And, hopefully down the line he'll, hook up with Daredevil and we'll kind of see more of what we see in the Netflix series. But
Mhm.
I don't think his inclusion was as cool. Like the idea was better than the execution of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought it was his character was just very brief, in my opinion. And like you said, the execution wasn't done so well because for someone like me who never watched the Netflix Daredevil series, again, didn't have any clue who he was, background story, what have you. But he's the big bad in this whole thing where he has some sort of I guess you could say maybe fatherly type relationship with Maya, because her dad was part of that tracksuit mafia that I guess Kingpin is over. And, he tries to reason with her about just where she's going now that she's more or less discovered the truth that it was like her dad's death wasn't because of, Ronin. It was, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember it right now. Huh, fake fan. Um, but Kingpin had
Well,
more to do with it than I
yeah,
think
he
Ronin actually had to.
basically Kingpin ordered the hit on Maya's father.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's what it was. Okay. Right. And speaking of hits, ordering hits, we learn that Eleanor, Kate Bishop's mother, uh, ordered a hit on Hawkeye after Kate comes home with Clint because they're investigating to find out if Jack is like, dirty SOB, whatever. And in perfect timing, Yelena, Yelena Belova from Black Widow. I'm gonna go back to have her on the screen because she is just so cool. Definitely one of my favorite characters in the MCU now. But she was ordered to kill Hawkeye, but she also has her own reasons why she wants to take out Hawkeye. And Justin, you can explain that.
Well, I mean, she wants to kill Hawkeye because she believes that Hawkeye killed her sister Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason. Obviously, that's not the case if you've
Right.
seen Endgame. But so she's mad at Hawkeye for that. Her mission is to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's really entertaining how Yelena and Kate meet and they kind of become fast friends. It seems
I
like
know.
they definitely should have their own show because they have a great kind of buddy cop
Yeah,
kind of thing going on.
definitely.
And
And she
yeah,
keeps calling her Kate Bishop.
right. That's yeah. She only knows she has to say the full name every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Yelena was one of the big highlights from this show, and she was only
Mm-hmm.
in what 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes.
Like
Um,
one and a half.
yeah, but she was a huge highlight. Florence Pugh is so great with that character, and
She's fabulous.
yeah, her and Haley Steinfeld together really are an awesome duo, and it was fun to
Mm-hmm.
watch them, just the interaction. And,
Yes.
the action with, fighting, she was trying to kill Hawkeye and, obviously they basically
Mm-hmm.
explained to her what really happened. And,
Right.
yeah, so I mean,
And
she's got a huge
it
future in the MCU.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I mean, it took some convincing for Yelena to come to the realization that it wasn't Clint's fault that Natasha, sacrificed herself or died, right?
Right.
She finally learns that truth and kind of comes to comes to peace with it, lets it go, what have you. But the fact that we see that it's Kate's mother who orders the hit, wants a Black Widow to assassinate an Avenger, but then we also find out that Eleanor is also has been working with Kingpin for years, and
Right.
the reason I think it was dealt with the husband, the now deceased husband, right? He had either debt or just got mixed up in some things with Kingpin, and she just like in turn had to do whatever bidding there was in order to fly under the radar or whatever. Um, but when Kate learns of that, it's kind of a big blow for her because you know Eleanor wants to put the blame on Hawkeye, and Kate's like, "No, this is your doing. Like the reason why we're in this mess is because of you." And she sends her mom to jail. It's Christmas, and which I thought that was kind of a weird line from the mother. She's like, "Oh, this is how you treat your mother. You send her to jail on Christmas or something like that." And it's like, "Yeah, I do. Love you. Bye." Oh, it's just so strange. Like, I don't know. It was really strange.
Yeah.
One aspect of this show, Justin, and I'm going to see if I can find the picture, which I thought was hilarious and just very today. Let's talk about LARPing.
Yep. That's a funny part. Yeah.
LARPing, for those who may not be familiar with the activity, it's a live action role playing. And apparently, a lot of public servants in New York City LARP. We're talking with our, police force, fire department, you name it, they're probably a part of it.
Mhm.
And, when Clint's trying to track down the Ronin outfit, costume, gear, I don't know what you want to call it. It comes in the hands of, I think he's a firefighter who LARPs in that outfit. And so Clint's like trying to get it back, but he's forced to basically pay a fee and LARP with these individuals and has to fight. Let me see if I can find his picture here because he goes undercover at one point. This gentleman right here, as I said, he's a firefighter. He has to fight him in order to get the Ronin outfit back, and I don't know, it's just hilarious because Hawkeye can kick your ass. Like
Yeah.
we know this, and he doesn't want to like actually lose to this dude.
Right. Yeah.
What did you think about the whole LARPing thing?
I thought it was a really creative way to not only get the costume back, but also to
Mhm.
like it leads to Kate and Clint Barton getting new costumes later on.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty creative way to for that to happen.
Mhm.
And it adds some like, some humor, some fun moments to the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really enjoyed that part of it. That was a highlight also.
Yeah, because like I mean, they're just like diehard, like they're into what they're doing, this whole LARPing community. And I get it. Like I've gone to Run Fest, um, the Renaissance Festival here in Texas, obviously. And I mean, people travel, with the festival and like that's their livelihood. And they're totally into like the dressing up and,
Oh yeah.
portraying these characters or whatever. And that's cool. That's fun. Um, but for, Clint Barton, it's like, no, this is not cool. This is not okay. Like did he say at one point he's like, I fought Thanos? And he's here having to fight this dude portraying a ninja or
Right.
whatever in the
Right.
LARPing. He's like, I fought Thanos, It's such a step back for him. So,
Yeah.
and that's what I thought was funny with this show. It kind of seemed like, egos are having to kind of be put in check. Not only just for Clint, but for Kate as well, because she she kind of thinks she can do it all. She thinks she could be an Avenger and what have you. And then, she goes through difficult times and it kind of like has to humble her, if you will. And I thought that was cool because a lot of people cross generations need to learn you're not invincible. You're human. You mess up just like everyone else. You can't have everything. It is what it is. You just have to suck it up and go with it, right? So I don't know. I think overall I really did enjoy this show. I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. But like I said, that first episode was just like a slow burn.
Yep.
But you have to establish story, obviously, in order to, you know, make your point.
I think that, same boat as you. Like the first episode wasn't a great start, but then they added so many characters, so many things that you almost wish it were either a few more episodes to kind of flesh everything out,
Yeah.
or you have less story and less characters. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of met in the middle, and so
Mm-hmm.
the end of it was I like the show overall, but the end of it wasn't great. So like
Yeah.
it kind of leaves you like I don't really have any interest in watching this again. You know what I'm saying? Even though I liked it,
Yeah.
it didn't. I don't know. It just didn't totally deliver. So, but
Yeah.
overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's time
Yeah.
we need to rank all these MCU shows so
We
far.
will. But real quick, hey Nick and Claire, what's up? I'm pretty sure it's just Nick though. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. My friends from the UK, thank you
That's
for
awesome.
joining us. I know time difference, of course, is a big deal, but we appreciate you stopping by. We've gone through the majority about Hawkeye, but you can always watch the playback later on. But I think now, like Justin said, we're going to kind of rank these MCU series that we have now on Disney Plus. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. So Justin, go ahead.
So, as I said before, Hawkeye is the fifth Disney Plus MCU show, and I'll just give you my rankings. So, I still think WandaVision is the best series thus far. So, I have WandaVision 1, I have
Mm-hmm.
Loki 2, I have this show Hawkeye 3. Number 4, I have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then number 5 is What If, which we haven't actually done a series review for, but we're going to do that sometime soon.
Yeah,
So again,
for sure.
WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and What If. Brittany, what's your top 5, or how would you rank those 5?
I feel like we did this with George on the Eternals, and I more or less agreed with him on his ranking. Um, but for right now, I'm just gonna go with what you're saying right now because I feel like with WandaVision, and the reason it comes in number one is just because of the creativity behind it, obviously.
Yeah.
So different, going through the different decades of television and what have you. So that was like really thinking outside of the box, or the shape that the hex, whatever it was called. But sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like
It's okay.
not succeeding with my jokes today. It's okay. So okay, yeah, WandaVision would be one. I really enjoyed Loki, of course. That was a little weird towards the end too. Uh definitely Hawkeye would probably be right there in the middle just because of like the action, the humor, what have you. Falcon, I would want to put Falcon higher, but at the same time, their storyline with the oh my god, what are they called? The One People, One World, whatever they were called.
Oh god.
Uh that storyline just terrible. And I get it, the original storyline had to deal with like a pandemic, and then we actually
Or a
were
virus
in a
or something.
pandemic.
Right.
Yeah, it was like a virus that was just taking over, and then we actually went into a real pandemic. So too soon,
Yeah.
y'all.
Right.
That fell flat. However, I did appreciate the storyline with bringing Falcon to be the new Captain America. That was cool. And the last one, What If? I mean, I enjoyed the animation behind it. I thought it was kind of different too, but yeah, it just not the best. But yeah, so Nick here agrees that he loved Hawkeye, but the ending was a tad bit flat, and he feels the same about WandaVision as well. So yeah, let us know your rankings of the MCU TV series that are now available on Disney Plus. Would love to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment in the live chat or leave a comment in after this video premieres, of course. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, like Hawkeye, I thought was decent. That was good. The ending was a little weird, but yeah, it was entertaining.
I think like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that the characters going forward are going to be better served in films.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe there's going to be a Hawkeye season 2.
I
Whereas
don't think
Loki,
so.
there is a season 2 coming, and What If is going to do another season. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we're getting a season 2 of this show, and that's fine because I think that, like I said, Kate Bishop can team up with Yelena going forward, or Hawkeye. He's still. It's not like he's retiring. I mean, they seem like they're
Mm-hmm.
they have the person waiting in the wings to take his spot, but it seems like she's still going to be a part of it, or he's going to still be going to be a part of the MCU, whenever called upon. So,
Yeah,
like I
for
said,
sure.
I think they'll be better served in movies going forward. But there's something, all these series have good parts about them. They're just, none of them have totally knocked it out of the park. I think WandaVision, kind of holds a special place in our hearts because it was the first one. And it was such a
Yeah.
creative start that it was like it kind of I know it like blew my mind of how like you're going through the decades and you're making it look like these classic TV shows and you're also telling an
Mm-hmm.
MCU story. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the creativity and the fact that it was the first one makes it the best in my mind. But obviously
Yeah.
Loki had a lot of cool stuff too. And there's stuff in What If. I mean, we're still going to talk about it. There's really cool
Right.
stuff in What If also that actually it seems like may have consequences in the Multiverse of Madness, which is the next movie that's coming out. So
Right.
um yeah, you can't go wrong
Right.
with the MCU. Like it might not be, in game level, but I mean that's a very, very high bar. But
Yeah.
like, at worst it's very entertaining. So
Yeah, that's true. And I'm trying to think how I can kind of wrap this. I agree that Hawkeye isn't really going anywhere anytime soon. I do think that he's going to play some kind of role in the upcoming movies, like with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I don't know if he'll actually directly be in the movie or not, but the fact that we have him, there's a connection with him and like Yelena because of Natasha, and even though they made their peace or what have you, I don't feel like he's going away anytime soon. Hopefully not, because like I said, I do enjoy Jeremy Renner, and I think he would be a great mentor for Kate Bishop. Like I said, she's in the comics, she has something to do with the Young Avengers, what have you. Um, but I mean, this was like a decent show. Like ultimately, decent show. You know, as you mentioned, very little CGI type things. We're not dealing with like an alien, enemy. We're dealing with like real world type things and real things that could happen. Just outside your front door, right? So I'm curious now too with the fact that Kingpin was incorporated into the show, if that means like the whole Daredevil thing, all that's going to start coming into the MCU, because like I've only watched the Ben Affleck Daredevil, and man, that was rough. So yeah.
I mean, speaking of the Ben Affleck Daredevil, there was like rumors that he might make a cameo in Multiverse of Madness as
Oh God Almighty.
his version. I don't think it's going to happen, but we will see we
No.
will see Ben Affleck again this year. He's returning to play Batman in the Flash. He has a brief cameo in the Flash,
Lovely.
so that'll be cool. But
Yeah,
yeah, no,
for
I mean,
sure.
like I said, overall, I enjoyed the show. It was I think the holiday part of it was my favorite part. It worked out
Hmm.
so well being a holiday
Yeah.
themed show, so I enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It was
So
it was
Brit,
a nice watch.
yeah. So Brittany, how can people find us on social media? Well, there
So
you
you
go.
can, there we go. I came prepared, Justin. You can follow the Watchers in the Basement on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All you have to do is just type in The Watchers in the Basement. Yes, I know it's a mouthful, but that's our name, spell it. And also help grow our audience. If you do follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, be sure to use hashtag Watchers Basement when tagging us. I know Nick actually shared the story of our Instagram post that we were doing the live stream. So thank you to Nick for that. Appreciate it so much. And hopefully we'll get a few more followers, a few more people, to check us out, because we have lots of MCU. We started off with Game of Thrones season 8, and that was quite disappointing, but that's how we started this pod. And we've just done, various things here and there. So we appreciate everyone who follows us here on YouTube, as well as our social media platforms. And also, Justin, we are available to be heard on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We appreciate you giving us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed our podcast. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got some other MCU related content coming your way very soon, and hopefully we'll get the other guys involved.
That's right. We still owe everyone a Shang-Chi review and a What If review. So once we knock those two out, we'll be caught up and ready for Moon Knight, which starts on March 30th, and then of course the multiverse, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is May 5th or 6th, I believe. So that's coming up, and then we have Thor: Love and Thunder. There might be a Black Panther 2. Maybe it's going to come out this year. I'm not sure. It might get pushed back. But there's a lot of stuff on Disney Plus that's coming, as we mentioned before. So we've got lots to talk about. So we appreciate everyone who's watching, listening to us right now. So
yes. So we got a quick question though. Quick question though, from Nick: is Daredevil in the MCU currently? Okay, so Nick, him and his family do like these really fun vlogs. They live in the UK, as I mentioned. They go to Disneyland Paris a lot, which I'm so jealous, because Paris first and foremost, but Disneyland Paris. But they also do fun trivia, and I actually participated in the MCU trivia that was this past weekend. A lot of fun for my very first time playing with them. It was great because I came in second place. So
nice. Congrats.
I know my shit.
Yes, you do. And to answer his question, if you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, that'll answer your question.
So yeah, and Nick is right. This does relate to the question of, is Daredevil in the MCU, was a question that was posed in the trivia. And so there was a little bit of debate about that in the live chat as we're doing this trivia thing, because I didn't think it is, but someone else said it is. So I wasn't entirely sure.
Do you mean Daredevil the character or Daredevil the Netflix series?
The Netflix series.
So
I mean, I know that character, that the actor, whatever, that played Daredevil in the Netflix series, made that cameo in Spider-Man, but it's like
Charlie Cox, yeah.
Right. The Kingpin question. So yeah, I mean, is all this now part of the MCU? I guess
I think the answer is yes. I think it has to be. Like, now that Kingpin's in the show, and obviously we saw Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home. So I don't know that those shows are going to be considered canon. Like, I think they're considered like Marvel legacy content, much like the X-Men movies, 20th Century Fox X-Men movies. Like the Daredevil movie you referenced with Ben Affleck, that's legacy content. The Fantastic Four movies.
So painful to watch.
It is an interesting question, because with Spider-Man No Way Home, like, now you could say that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man are both in the MCU.
Yeah.
The characters are. I don't know if you'd say the movies are. I mean, the villains are too. So it's an interesting question. So we're not going to see the Daredevil series on Disney Plus, right? Because it's a Netflix property. I mean, and I think if by some chance Marvel ever gets a hold of it, it'll be considered legacy content. So it won't be like in the MCU, but the characters are in the MCU from those shows.
Perhaps. And maybe like what you mentioned before, because Kingpin, you said, is a Spider-Man villain. So
Spider-Man, Daredevil, he's a New York-based villain, so the New York-based heroes face off against him, but most notably Spider-Man and Daredevil. Yeah.
Okay. So Nick is saying that he thinks that the comment was that Kingpin was already in the MCU before Hawkeye series.
I
And
don't know about that. I don't know how you could explain that.
I don't know
But
either. And
yeah.
so Nick, your guess is just as good as ours. We don't claim to be experts, with the MCU because there are plenty of people out there who actually are.
Well,
And I really wish that Frank was here because Frank out of, our group knows quite a bit
no, but
about,
I think we do know quite a bit about the MCU. I just don't know how you could say that the
did I
Kingpin was
did I touch
in.
a nerve, Justin?
No. I'm just saying, like, I mean, we've all seen the movies multiple
Yeah.
times. Some of the movies definitely.
Yeah.
I just don't think you could say Kingpin is a part of was a part of the MCU before he was shown on screen or before
Right.
Spider-Man: No Way Home. I just don't think
Right,
you could
because
say
like
that.
what defines a character or whatever being a part of
Right.
the MCU if they're not on the screen? So, um,
I mean, like
yeah,
the Fantastic Four, they're not technically in the MCU yet. They will be. I mean, obviously they have a movie coming out, with John Watts, the director of the Spider-Man, home
I thought you were gonna
trilogy.
say John Wick, and I'm like,
No. John Wick is not in the MCU. I'm pretty
damn
sure he's
it!
not. But no, I mean, I think until you see until a character is referenced, said name checked, said by name, or seen on
Yeah,
screen, you
yeah.
can't say they're in the MCU. I think that's a good rule, like
That's I think that I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
It really
and that's
does. And like
that's the
how
way you
you
have to do it.
explained about these shows that have been on Netflix and things like that, like, oh god, the god awful Iron Fist and then the Luke Cage and all that. I mean, those are all part of MCU, yes, but like what you're saying is they could be defined as like
No, they're not
legacy.
MCU. They're Marvel. They're all
I'm
Marvel,
you know
right?
what I'm trying to say. You understand
Right.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
They're
I got
part of
you.
Marvel, but they're not in the MCU. And if they are brought into the MCU, then it would be, would you say MCU legacy? Marvel legacy?
Yeah,
What was it
legacy
you're saying?
content. There's actually a category on Disney Plus that says that. So,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So,
Nick, you do make a good point about Superman or Alfred not being part of the MCU, even though
they're
they were
not.
mentioned.
They're not, but
They were mentioned in Eternals.
yeah, we talked about that though. I think
Yeah, we
there's
did.
there's reasons behind that. So,
Yeah, for sure.
anyway, I mean, it's mostly just a joke to mention the opposing, the other company's characters, but
Right, right.
there might be something down the line. Who knows?
As long as they don't pull the same crap that they did in, oh, I can't even remember what movie it was because I don't care. With Metropolis being right next to Gotham City and like
Well, that was Batman
the
versus Superman. Yeah, that
yeah,
was
like
one of the dumbest parts of that movie. I mean, we talked about this, but it's like, and I know in some of the comics, like Metropolis and Gotham are kind of like sister cities, which to me makes no sense because if you have a Superman, why would you need a Batman? Like, right? Like, Superman can cover, he can
exactly.
cover, like, if you can see the bat symbol from Metropolis, guess who can get there faster? Like, Superman can, I don't say so. It like, and I mean, there's lots of problems with that movie. The fact that like Batman was like the older Batman, he'd been Batman for 20 plus years, and Superman was only Superman for a couple of years. But okay, so Metropolis and Gotham are so close to each other, but no one in Metropolis has heard of Batman. Like he's like this underground, like the Daily Planet, which is supposedly the greatest newspaper ever. They don't know anything about Batman. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like they didn't think about stuff. It's like we talked about earlier in this show, how like no one has it like the MCU. They think about
Yeah,
everything. Even that Ant-Man thing from the musical,
yeah,
there's a way you can't explain it. Whereas
sure.
with the DC stuff, I mean, Batman is about to kill Superman, but because their mothers have the same name, he stops trying to kill him and becomes his best friend. Now that like in that world, if that were true, if you were Superman and after the kryptonite is out of the way, the first thing you do is you get up and you snap Batman's neck and you go save your mom. But in the movie, he gets up and he lets Batman go save his mom, his mother, who he's never met. Like, and if your mom was in trouble and someone was killing you, and you wanted the person who's trying to
Oh
kill you to save your
man.
mom, you would say, save my mother or save my mom. You wouldn't say save Martha. It's just dumb. Like,
We
they,
apologize to anyone out there whose name is Martha or their
no,
mother's name is Martha.
we love all the Marthas. It's just that is such a dumb like
In-
way to. to tell your
We're,
story.
we're talking to you, Martha Stewart. We love you.
Right, right. I just
God.
like there's no way
I
to
definitely
defend that.
touched a nerve on this one. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that like there's a lot of cool stuff in that movie, and I do enjoy that movie, but there's also a lot of really dumb stuff that the
Yeah.
people who love that movie don't want to acknowledge, and it's like there's just dumb stuff. That's the reason why it didn't do as well as it should have. That's the reason why, there was a Snyder cut, and like how that whole universe is they're having to like readjust it with the Flash because it wasn't done well. There was not a great plan. Just like we talked about with Star Wars. The recent trilogy of Star Wars movies, there's no plan.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's just really dumb. And the MCU, even when the MCU, like with shows like this, which like Hawkeye wasn't the greatest thing ever, it wasn't dumb. You know what I mean? It was entertaining. Everything pretty much makes sense. And with the MCU, if something doesn't make sense in the moment, they can explain it later on with something. That's the beauty of the MCU. There are very few like gaping plot holes. Whereas like with DC's biggest two characters, when they faced off, there's just plot holes everywhere. Like I'm surprised Batman didn't trip on one of them and fall while he's like, swinging Superman around like I don't know. Is it just, you touched a nerve for sure. Because Batman versus Superman should have been an awesome movie, and it wasn't. And you can't you can't do that again. You've got to wait years and years and years before you can do that. So anyway.
So on that note, if anyone out there wants to watch our past
watch
podcasts.
Hawkeye. Yeah, watch Hawkeye. That's all I have to say. Hey, I can rant about DC all day long. You know that.
That's another podcast, okay? Listen, we can't do that when we're talking about MCU. No. We can't do that when we're talking about MCU.
Last thing, you want good DC, watch Peacemaker. That's entertaining, good DC. Anyway.
But how can you see John Cena, though?
I know.
Just curious.
You can't see him. His time is now. That's right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think George is watching Peacemaker too, so maybe you guys will do a pod on that because I'm not watching it because I honestly couldn't care less.
Yeah, the fourth episode came out today, which I have not watched it yet, but I will shortly. So
yeah. So like Justin said, we've got Shang-Chi that's going to be coming out in the coming weeks, along with our review on What If, was it worth it? Was it not? What if it was, DC made? Ooh. No, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But also, we're going to also talk about the Book of Boba Fett once that's completely aired, and probably a few other things too. I still want to do a pod on Hamilton, but that's just me. But because I'm actually going to go see Hamilton when it comes to town. So, anywho.
Oh, maybe we can talk about it then. That would make sense.
Maybe so. And then I want to bring Harry Potter into the fold. I have to do it. We did the reunion. We got to bring Harry Potter into the fold. We have to have something that's mine, okay?
That's fair.
Anywho.
Sounds
all right,
good.
so we're going to wrap it up here, y'all. We went a little over, I think, what we probably intended to do. But yeah, maybe we'll just do a pod with, Justin dogging on DC and everything that's wrong with it.
I could do it very easily.
I know you can.
Yeah, there'd be no preparation or anything. Like it just wake me up and I can start talking about how messed up.
So
how they messed up. Yeah.
Ponder on this question, Justin, of Disney buys DC in a few years, and that could, be the lead off on your DC rant.
Oh no, that would be the salvation for DC. Because no, I mean the people. If you had Kevin Feige running DC, they would be very successful. I mean, very successful, because their characters are arguably, on the same level or better than the Marvel characters. They're arguably like more iconic. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. These are iconic figures.
Yes.
They're just not treated well. They're not treated very well, and the opposite of it is Marvel treats all their characters well. I mean, like Ant-Man should be kind of a joke character. Both movies are pretty good. Like I enjoyed Ant-Man 2. What's that?
Except Captain Marvel. That was
like Captain Marvel made $1 billion. You know what I'm saying?
No. I'm not saying they're not successful. I'm just saying
right.
It was a miss with that character.
No,
or
yeah, that's my
actress.
least favorite one, but like
Yeah.
that character could be great going forward in other movies. You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's a total loss. And like I said, still the movie made $1 billion. So it's very successful,
Yeah,
financially,
for sure.
which is, honestly the most important thing for these companies. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, if Disney bought DC, that'd be a great thing for DC fans, whether they want to admit it or not, because it would be. I mean, you'd have, you know, content that makes sense, that, makes you care about the characters. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
all. But
I'm
that's ways. I mean, that might not never it might never happen,
yeah.
but it's a ways away if it ever did. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I know that when the Batman comes out, I know you're gonna watch it. I'm pretty sure
I will
the
be
other guys are
watching
gonna
it.
watch it. I know Nick here in our chat is looking forward to it. Again, I personally couldn't care less.
Supposedly,
It's
it's like 3 hours long too.
oh
That's the
god,
talk. So we'll see. It might, yeah,
I can't endure another Snyder Cut type thing. I just can't.
yeah. Well, this isn't a Zack Snyder film, so it's Matt Reeves who did the Planet of the Apes movies. So
Oh,
anyway,
Lord, help us all. Okay, moving on. All right, y'all. So thank you for joining us here on YouTube live stream, as well those listening to us on our different streaming platforms of Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. All thanks to Anchor.fm. Got to put that plug in there too. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to use hashtag Watchers Basement when talking about us, because let's just create that buzz. We're trying to make that comeback in 2022. Hopefully, Justin, we'll get everyone to come back. Frank, George, and Nathan. Nathan has been MIA
fingers
for,
crossed.
I feel like, years, even though we haven't been doing this for years. But anyway, so once again, thank you to everyone who has joined us. We will be back very soon with our review on Shang-Chi, What If, and the Book of Boba Fett. Until then, we will catch you guys later.
Yep. See you later.